Welcome back to today's video. In this video, we're on the topic of which voting method, whether it's voting by mail or voting in person, will affect the outcome of the 2024 presidential election. So basically, whether it comes to voting by mail, voting in person, voting early, higher turnout, lower turnout, how all of that will basically affect or impact the outcome of the 2024 presidential election. But before we get started, I do want to get out the way of channel memberships. We do have channel memberships. It's in the description. So scroll down under this video and click the link. It's also in my comment section. So also scroll down, click the link in the description or the link you can find in the comment section. And there's also a join button on my channel page. So we have custom perks. We have custom emojis regarding the 2024 election. So make sure you become a member today and join. Let's begin with the actual video. So basically, Republicans are trying to change the way they, do things when it comes to winning elections. So as we all know, Republicans, including Donald Trump, has bashed Democrats in 2020, in the 2020 election, for voting by mail. And Donald Trump also was not really in favor of voting early. Now, this time around 2024, Republicans are adjusting to their losses. Republicans said to push mail-in ballots, voting methods that they've previously, like I just mentioned, blasted as recipes for fraud. Republicans back in 2020, including Donald Trump, has blamed mail-in ballots for fraud. That they, voting by mail increases the risk of fraud, and that's what Donald Trump has been talking about in 2020, how voting by mail increases voter fraud. Well, in 2024, Donald Trump is completely doing the exact opposite. He is encouraging voting by mail-in methods. In fact, he said this in a lot of campaign rallies. You can go find them. For 2024 election, Donald Trump has changed the way he's doing things when it comes to winning elections. Specifically, in the upcoming one, just this year in the 2024 presidential election, Donald Trump has said, quote unquote, that he wants to beat the Democrats at their own game. He wants to do what the Democrats are doing and just basically copy them to give them a taste of their own medicine, beat them at their own game when it comes to winning elections. When it comes to voting by mail, typically when there's more voting by mail, Democrats are favored to win the election, as we all know. But typically when there's more in-person voting, then Republicans are actually the favorites to win the election. For example, in the 2020 election, there was plenty of voting by mail, more than any other election, obviously because of COVID. And with that being said, it ended up favoring Democrats, and Joe Biden beat Donald Trump. And now what Trump's trying to do is beat them at their own game, and Trump is now encouraging voting by mail, which is something that he did not want to do previously in 2020. But now he is considering it in the 2024 election. And also, Donald Trump is considering early votes, as we can see right here. When it comes to early voting actually favors Democrats. When there's more early voting in an election, Democrats are the favorite to win the election. When there is more voting in person, Republicans are favored for that election. In 2020, another example. There was more early voting. That favored Democrats, and it ended up giving Joe Biden the presidency. So with that being said, Democrats in Biden's home state are leaving for the Republican Party in droves. And that is exactly what voter data shows. When it comes to the key state of Pennsylvania, which Joe Biden was born there, but obviously he moved out when he was a kid, to obviously Delaware, where he currently lives right now. But in Biden's home state where he lived, but obviously moved, Republicans are outnumbering Democrats at voter registration. Typically, when we hear voter registration, the more people vote, the more it helps Democrats. Well, 2024 is going to be an interesting year because Republicans are trying to do what Democrats have been doing for decades when it comes to winning elections. It helped Obama win. More votes typically helps Democrats. And higher turnout years actually helps Democrats, and that's exactly why Democrats are complaining about how Republicans are trying to take away the rights to vote and take away voters' rights to vote. So that way Democrats don't win elections. And that's what Democrats are complaining, that Republicans are trying to take away the rights to vote so that the way there's lower turnout in elections, meaning Republicans would be favored. Because as we all know, the more turnout there is in an election, the more the Democrats win. So if there's more turnout, then more favored for Democrats rather than Republicans. As we saw, 2020, the election of 2020 was an example. We had higher turnout more than ever in U.S. history, and it favored Joe Biden. He ended up winning. So if there's less turnout, that means Donald Trump is probably going to win the 2024 election. But guess what? Republicans, it's kind of looking like the opposite for 2024. Republicans have outnumbered Democrats in voter registration, new voters, by nearly 15,000 votes. 15,000 votes are in favor of Republicans when it comes to the key state of Pennsylvania, and that's key for Donald Trump to win, is the voter registration. So if Donald Trump can improve with the voter registration, which is what we are seeing with the polls, number one, the polls are suggesting that Donald Trump is favored in 5 key battleground states, which obviously, as we all know, the polls don't vote and the voters do vote. And that's what the Democrats have been saying, and that's their reasoning to why they think the polls are not accurate. The Democrats are saying that the polls are inaccurate. They're not accurate because voters vote and the polls obviously don't vote. But actually, polls consist of a sample of real voters, and it's kind of an example of what's actually probably going to happen, is Biden might end up losing re-election. So, as we all know, like I mentioned earlier, if there's more voter registration, it helps Democrats. But the reason why it's not going to in 2024 is because Republicans are changing things up and they're doing what the Democrats have been doing for decades. Republicans are now encouraging things that they have not encouraged ever before. Republicans are now encouraging early voting. Guess what? They've never encouraged that. They are now considering things that they've never done. Republicans were always anti-mail-in. Guess what? They're considering that in 2024 to beat the Democrats at their own game. Republicans are now considering voting early, which they've always pushed a vote on election day. Now they're considering voting early to essentially beat the Democrats at their own game, and that's what Donald Trump's strategy. When it comes to Donald Trump's strategy, I would tell you for the 2024 election, if you were to ask me, what would Donald Trump's strategy be for the 2024 election? And he has said this repeatedly, that he wants to specifically beat the Democrats at their own game by voting in mail, voting in person, and voting early, actually, not voting in person, but voting early and voting by mail, which is 2 things that Republicans did not do in the past. They refused to do it, but now they are considering the 2 things that they always been against of. They are rethinking things. They are now, taking advantage of what the Democrats are doing, and that's exactly why Donald Trump is the favorite to win the 2024 election, is because Donald Trump is changing his strategy into a winning strategy, which is the exact same strategy that the Democrats have been doing for the past couple of decades now. When it comes to early votes, Democrats have been fantastic about that. When it comes to voting by mail, it helps Democrats. Those are 2 things that Republicans did not want to do, but now they are heavily considering voting early and voting by mail instead of voting in person or on election day, which is what they used to do in the past, but now Donald Trump is changing up the scheme. Let me know if you guys agree with everything I just said in this video, which happens to be a fact. Donald Trump has said these things himself. And let me know if you agree that this will help Republicans win the 2024 election. Let me know your thoughts on the comment section down below on all this. And don't forget to subscribe, as we are approaching 800 subscribers. And don't forget to join, as we have channel memberships. Thank you guys so much for watching.